Marcus had been on his feet for 9 hours straight. When the bell above the diner door chimed, one last time before closing, he was a single father of 2, working double shifts at Rosie's roadside diner to pay rent and keep the lights on. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? His back ached, his shoes were worn thin, and his smile, though tired, never once left his face, because Marcus believed that every person who walked through that door deserved to feel welcome. He wiped down the counter, ready to call it a night, when he heard a soft voice near the entrance. "Excuse me, can I sit here?" He turned around and saw a woman in a wheelchair, somewhere in her 60s, her silver hair neatly pinned, her eyes quiet but watching. The kind of eyes that had seen a lot of the world and learned not to expect too much from it. She was pointing to a corner booth, the one closest to the door, the one that most customers avoided because it sat right in the draft. Marcus didn't hesitate for even a second. He walked over, gently moved a chair aside to make space for her wheelchair, grabbed a clean menu and said, "Of course. Best seat in the house. You can see the whole diner from here." The woman looked at him, really looked at him, as if she hadn't expected that answer. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Most people just stare." Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. He took her order, just a cup of chamomile, tea and a slice of apple pie, and went about his work. But every few minutes he checked on her, refilled her tea without being asked, brought her an extra napkin when her hands trembled, slightly trying to open a sugar packet. He didn't make a big deal of it. He didn't perform kindness, he just gave it naturally, the way good people do without thinking twice. The woman ate slowly, watching the diner hum with its last few customers. When Marcus finally brought her check, he had already marked the tea and the pie as complimentary. "You've had a long day," he said simply. "So have I. Consider it on me." The woman looked down at the check, then back up at him. Her eyes glistened just slightly. "You have no idea what today has been like," she said. "But you made it better. That matters more than you know." Marcus smiled, told her to stay as long as she needed, and went back to his side work. He thought nothing more of it. This was just who he was. 20 minutes passed. Then, through the large front windows of the diner, something unusual happened. 5 black SUVs pulled into the parking lot, one after another, smooth and silent as a convoy. The other waitress, Linda, pressed her nose to the glass. "Who in the world?" Every head in the diner turned. The vehicles parked in a neat row, and the doors opened almost simultaneously. Men and women in dark suits stepped out, serious, professional, scanning the area with quiet authority. Then one of them opened the rear door of the middle SUV, and a tall man in his 40s stepped out. He was well dressed, silver at his temples, and he moved with the kind of calm that people carry when they are used to being the most important person in any room. He walked straight into the diner, looked around once, and then his eyes landed on the woman in the corner booth. His entire expression changed. The professional mask fell away, and what replaced it was pure, unguarded relief. "Mom," he said, his voice cracking just slightly. He crossed the diner in 4 long strides and knelt beside her wheelchair, taking her hands in his. The whole diner had gone completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The woman patted his hand and looked toward Marcus, who was standing near the counter with a dish towel in his hand, frozen like everyone else. "That young man," she said to her son, "is the reason I want to stay in this world a little longer." The man stood up slowly and turned to Marcus. He introduced himself, but his name, though recognizable to anyone who followed national business news, wasn't what mattered in that moment. What mattered was the way he shook Marcus's hand with both of his, the way his voice was thick when he said, "You treated my mother like she was the most important person in the room. She is to me, and I will never forget what you did for her tonight." It turned out the woman had slipped away from a private event earlier that evening, overwhelmed and exhausted. She had simply needed somewhere quiet, somewhere she felt human and not invisible, and a tired, underpaid, single-father waiter had given her exactly that, not because he knew who she was, but because it never once occurred to him to treat her any differently. In the weeks that followed, Marcus received help he had never asked for, opportunities that changed things for him and his children. But he would always say the same thing when people asked about it. "I didn't do anything special. I just saw a person who needed kindness and I gave it." That is the whole story. And that is the whole lesson. If you believe in the power of kindness, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Kindness True Stories, because every story we share is proof that one small act of goodness can change everything.